Welcome. This is my first test of live streaming my recording process. We're going to be starting with Pilgrim 4, Chapter 1, the literal beginning of the fourth book, and we'll see how it goes. You may see me pausing or looking to the right, my right, every now and then. That's because I am checking my notes. I do have notes for this book, and since it is the fourth one in the series, they can be quite extensive. So we'll give this a shot and see what it looks like, and thanks for watching. Danzan Ravcha. Traced his paintbrush over his mother's work, finishing what she had started, the outline around the door, now with a trace of gold leaf to it, which had been given to him by Elder Saunders, the Suja villagers all paying their respects over the last several days, period. But the time for mourning had passed. Or at the very least it needed to be extended to what he planned to do next, to forge the Northern Passage and collect enough remnants to rebuild Sunyata, period, New Line. Was it even possible? Question mark. New Line. This had been something he had considered over the last few days. Even if those around him had assured him that it was worth a try, period, New Line, open quote. Everything is worth a try, close quote, said Jelme. The previous night, the Bakaneko, picking at his teeth with his nail, his eyes a bit glossy from some liquor he had procured in the yokai village of was something he had twisted his mind around over the last few days. Yato, the young assassin who had now joined them, the same trained by one of Danzan's teacher, lowercase s, seemed to agree, period. As usual, the Kitsune remained skeptical, Kutsu, a bit weary of any concepts of rebuilding, even though she had been blind assassin, comma, Kutsu, comma, who had remained quiet up until that point, offered her opinion as well. Period. New line, open quote. I have to agree with the Bakaneko, comma, even if I am doing so begrudgingly, ... close quote. New line. Comma. Open quote. It'll be better for all of us for there to be both a heaven and a hell, comma, close quote. Jumley had said, period, open quote. Remember, comma, right now we just have a hell, comma. Which is a great place to end up, period. Am I right? Question mark. You visited, period. Aren't you excited to one day go there? Question mark, close quote. New line. Kuzu had merely growled at this statement, period. New line. Heaven. Danzin continued to finish what his mother had started. Period. He had already touched up a bit of the frescoes that extended over the edge of the ceiling, comma, to where a crown molding would be in one of the nicer homes of had already or even further, comma, towards Sanchand. He thought about and how he had first sought her out at her monastery, nunnery, comma, how she had joined him in and how the truth of eventually made itself known once she revealed that she had other plans for Danzin, comma, hoping that he would take his father's throne, period, new line. But that was out of the question, comma. No matter what did, comma, no matter how hard he tried to force Danzin to one day become the ruler of Diyu, comma, he would resist, period. He had seen enough death and bloodshed for life to last a lifetime. comma. And even if there were parts of that, those with power, comma, like his brother, comma, could live in relative comfort, comma, he wanted no part of it, period, new line. Hence, his desire to rebuild. Period. The following day, comma, he would venture with his companions, comma, including the blind assassin Noman. Into the where they would meet the winged and continue on to Abbot Mampo shrine from there, period. They would take the northern passage as a group, comma, Galzo. If you want to know what I'm doing right now, I am training my speech-to-text program. Period. As you can see, it's a little bit wonky, especially at the speed in which I write nowadays. It's the best that I have at the moment, and I'm sure in the future, once they continue updating the software, it will be better. So, yeah, I used to actually use different words for people's names, like Danzen was Danny, comma, and sometimes I still do that because it doesn't pick up Danzen very well. Some of the other names it doesn't pick up as well either. So you might have noticed that I just type them out. It seems to work. So I'm going to try to add a few names here to see if I can speed up the process, starting with the Hainu of the Asura Forest. Galzo. I'm going to try again here. Galzo. Who else? Suja village. Sainshand. Sainshand. Alright, we're going to get back into it now and at least finish up this section and stop the video at that point. As a group, led by Sansar. That's not it. Sansar. Sansar, the three-legged raven who had been working with Danzin's mother all along. Period. It was going to be an interesting trip, Danzin sure that obstacles would present themselves along the way. Period. New line. So many obstacles. Period. New line. Since moving to the valley, he had not only learned of the existence of yokai, but he had been hunted ruthlessly by a number of assassins, most of whom he had killed. Period. One by one, Danzin had stopped those who wanted him dead, period. But there were always remained, the female assassin killing the Witch of Diu. Capital W. Before his very eyes, and for all he knew, she had traveled to the mountains outside of Sanshand to retrieve the witch's potent poisons, period. New line, wherever she was, he knew that the masked assassin would one day find him, period. That she was relentless, and that it was useless to try to avoid her, period. New line, earlier that morning, as he bent his echo alongside Yato, the two of them moving through various combat stances close enough that they could have easily injured one another, another, He had wondered when that encounter would come, period. It was inevitable, period. Soko. Could be as patient as she was. Alright, I'm looking for a word here. I do have a thesaurus opened up, which I use from time to time. Usually when I'm editing. It's not spontaneous. Impulsive. There's the word I'm looking for. So this is my first draft, meaning that the final draft, which you will read in text or perhaps listen to as an audiobook, is going to sound and read much differently. I usually do a draft and then I edit it and then I re-edit it, and then Pilgrim goes to an editor and then it goes to a proofer. And I usually end up having to spend the most time, so perhaps another edit on my end, or even two, on the first and second chapter, because I always have to get back into it. Like what you're seeing right now is me remembering and getting back into the story. period. I've already went through my notes, but I've been writing Cowboy Necromancer 2, and I will be writing Cowboy Necromancer 2 and Pilgrim simultaneously. Pilgrim 4 simultaneously, which means that I have to rely on notes, and the voice is very different. When you hear me live read Cowboy Necromancer, you'll see I even kind of move into like a country accent for Sterling. So it's a different kind of pace, but both of them have a bit slower pace, even though they are, they have action scenes and all of that. Period. The newer things I've been working on don't really have as slow of a pace, I believe. War Priest will be a good example of one that moves at a different speed, and then what I want to do next will be the same. But Pilgrim and Cowboy Necromancer, it's already set. The tone and the tempo is already set, so I wouldn't want to change it right now. Anyway, all of this to say that what you see here and what it reads like is going to change. I also, since it is the beginning, want there to be a sort of recap, because the Pilgrim series doesn't have recaps, and I did that just because of the way the series is designed. Each vignette is its own story, in a way, connecting a larger narrative. Some of my other things, like Cowboy Necromancer, will have a recap. This doesn't, so if you've noticed in the second and the third Pilgrim, the first chapter also sort of recaps things in a way that's not like, previously on Pilgrim, blah, 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 blah. It's kind of weaves it into the narrative. So that's what I'm doing here. As Danzin is painting over his mother's markings in his monastery, he's thinking about a couple of things that serve as a recap for the reader, and that allow him to reflect in a way, and then also to show how he's changed and how he's also continuing to work on the monastery, even though the monastery has already been fixed up by this point. It's fixed up in the first book. Now he's continuing to improve it, which is a metaphor for what he's doing to himself. He's continuing to improve himself. Anyway, we're going to get back into it, and I'm going to try to come to a stopping point here. I try to stop on some type of note that pushes you to continue. Wait, what's going to happen next? This one is a little bit trickier because it's more of a recap, it's more of a reflective moment, but by the fourth book, I'm not so worried about starting the book that way. I wouldn't start a first book this way. I wouldn't start the second book either, because I want you to immediately jump into it. But by this point, you like Danzin. If you're reading the fourth book, hopefully, you like Danzin, you like what he's about, and the psychological aspect of his character you will like by now. So I'll see what happens here. I have notes and plot outline for what I want to happen in the first part, but then I leave it pretty open after that to allow whatever happens to happen. So we'll see what happens here with that. I honestly have no idea what that's going to look like in the end. And then, of course, it'll be edited and changed, which I probably won't be posting my process for that, because I would like to keep that to myself, how I do that, at least for now. I think it would be better. So anyways, I've spoken for too long. Let's finish up here. Back to Pilgrim 4. Impulsive. Period. Nearline. Sudden movement outside caught Danzin's attention, and as he put the paintbrush down, a sudden noise. Two voices met his ears, his mood souring to some degree, period. New line, it was Usagi, the jade rabbit. that continued to be helpful and could be as helpful as he was a thorn in their side. Period. And he was arguing with Jelme. Period. New line, open quote. Why did you come all the way up here? If you were just going to argue with me, question mark, close quote, Jelme asked. Period. Open quote. You could have just stayed at the bottom of the hill and waited for me to come down. Period. Close quote. Could have. Open quote. If you're going to open the northern passage, comma, you should have already left by now. Period. Yet you are sitting here. Doing what? Question mark. Close quote. New and open quote. Thinking. Comma. Close quote. Usagi said. Jelme said. Period. Open quote. Counting the clouds. Period. Waiting for the first star to appear. Period. Seeing how long I can stare at the sun. Period. All the things that Bakaneko do on their day off. I come with news, comma, close quote. Usagi said with a strong sigh. Period. New line, open quote. Usagi is here, comma, close quote. Yato called into the monastery. Period. New line. Danton continued painting over his mother's outline, comma, not yet ready to deal with the argumentative yokai. Period. Kutsu, comma, who had been resting in his bedroom, came out, comma, the white fox with her ears pressed back, comma, her whiskers twitching at the sound of Usagi's voice. Period. New line. Open quote. This better be good, comma, close quote, she said as she trotted out. Period. New line. Danzan heard a voice that he was still getting used to, comma, the one that belonged to Sansar. Period. Open quote. We will set out in the morning, period. I have already told you this, period, close quote, new line, open quote. What the bird said, comma, close quote. Jelme told Usagi, period, open quote. It really makes no sense that you would come all the way up here, too. Scold us for not leaving already, period, close quote, new line, open quote. It's only because, ... close quote. Usagi seemed to grumble to himself for a moment. Period, open quote. Because of the way that you announced your intentions, comma, word has spread through the forest of what you were planning to do. And word has come back to me that there are those that aren't interested in what you were planning to do. Period. Close quote, new and open quote. So you're telling us that people, comma, or better yokai, comma, close quote, Jelme began, comma, open quote, don't agree with us wanting to rebuild Sunyata. Period, close quote, new line, open quote. That's right, comma, and they may be planning something, comma, close quote. Usagi said, comma, his voice lowering. Period. It was at this point that Danzan put his paintbrush down. Period. He stood and smoothed his hands over his robes, comma, noticing that there was a small fleck of paint on his nail. Period. The former assassin stepped outside of the monastery, comma, where he saw Jelme laying on the hill next to Yato, comma, who was seated, comma, the Bakaneko not yet bothering to sit up at. Period. Kudzu was seated on the other side. Comma. Sansar. Perched on the roof of the monastery, looking down at the three of them, appeared. The only one missing was Noman, comma, who had volunteered to retrieve food for the night. Period. New line. It was a warm day, comma, the summer in full effect, comma. A radiant energy to the forest below as the wind moved through the trees, comma, whistling in a sweet way and matched by bird song, comma, period, lowercase b. It had been hotter. The previous day had been hotter, and Danzin was the slight drop in temperature was welcoming, comma, which was one reason the others had all been relaxing, period. New line, in a way, comma, it was why Danzin was relaxing as well, comma, the stone walls of his monastery, like an oven at times, comma, preventing him from wanting to be inside, period. But today was different, comma, and with the doors open, comma, the front and the back, comma, the space had been cooled off, comma, comfortable for once, period, new line. Danzin's two were there as well on their perches, come on. Both still at the moment, period. Open quote. He decides to join us, comma, close quote. Usagi said, period, open quote. Maybe you will be the voice of reason for this bunch, period, close quote, new line, open quote. I've already heard what you said. Danzin nodded, period, new line, open quote, again with the silence. Period, anyway, comma. I came here to warn you, period. And you owe me for that, comma, I should add, period, close quote, new line, open quote, owe you, question mark, close quote. Jame started to laugh, period. You could have sent someone else to warn us, period. You didn't have to come yourself, period, close quote, new line, open quote. You. That's beside the point, comma, close quote. Usagi snapped. Period, open quote. You need to get moving. Period. The longer you wait, comma, the more trouble you will run into. Period. Maybe not here, comma, but there, comma, along the passage. Period. Word spreads quickly, comma, you know. Period, close quote, new line. Open quote. And let me guess, comma, close quote, Jalmai said, comma, open quote. You're here to offer us some sort of protection, period. Maybe if we grease your hairy little palm. Do rabbits have all of a sudden our trip will become easier, comma, none of these yokai that are out to get us, as you call them, will be interested any longer, period. Any longer, period, close quote, new line. Kuzu joined in with Jalmai for once, period, open quote. Our little trip becomes comma. I agree with the Bakaneko, period. You generally want something from us for information. You aren't the kind of jade rabbit that gives out information freely, period, close quote, new unopen quote. This seemed to rile up Usagi, comma, who stood tall for a moment, comma, his cheeks puffing out, period, open quote. How dare you? Jalmai started to laugh once again, period, open quote. Your theatrics aren't going to work on me today, comma, not this afternoon, comma, at least, period. It's too nice out, period. Relax, period. How old are you? Question mark. A couple hundred years, question mark. You're going to give yourself a heart attack if you keep stressing out like that, period. If you want, comma, I have some alcohol in my home. Period. You know what? Question mark. I'll even go down there and get it for you. Period. Comma. Seeing as how you don't have hands and probably won't be able to open the drawer I've stashed it in. Period. Close quote. How? You ask what I want, question mark. I'll tell you what I want, comma, close quote. Usagi said, comma, growing serious, period, open quote. The opening of the northern passage would benefit yokai as well, period. It has been a very long time, comma, 1,000 years or more, comma, has since people have used that passage, period. Yokai have used that passage, period. It's too dangerous, comma, from the filthy humans that live along it to the more demonic of our kind, period. If you forge are able to open it again, comma, it would benefit all of us, period. And I'm not talking about rebuilding Sunyata, comma, if that is even possible, period. So that's why I'm here, period. I wanted to tell you that you should leave soon, comma, and that you need to be keep your guard up, period, close quote, new line. Jame snorted at this suggestion, period. Have you not met Pilgrim here? Question mark, close quote, he asked, comma, pointing his thumb at Danzin, period. Thumb at. If anyone has their guard up, comma, it is the man who has been trained from birth to kill indiscriminately, period. And not to mention that, comma, we have Yato, comma, who, comma, I must say, comma, is getting stronger, period, close quote, no and open quote, thank you, comma, I think, comma, close quote, Yato told Jame, period, new and open quote. Want more? Question mark. We have Noman, comma, who is off doing whatever a blind assassin does on an afternoon when she's supposed to be bringing back food, period. You came here for a meal, comma, didn't you? Question mark. No, comma, but, close quote. Something akin to a smirk took shape on Usagi's face, period, open quote. I wouldn't turn one down if you offered it to me, period. It is a long hop back to my... I'll tell you what, comma, close quote, Jame said, period, open quote. You convince the fox here to turn into a human and go down to my home and bring back the alcohol, comma, for you and me to share, of course, comma, and I'll let you stick around for dinner, period, close quote, no and open quote. How would you, do you have a way that you would prevent me from sticking around if I didn't? Question mark, close quote. Not happening, comma, close quote, Kutsu said, period, open quote. I'm quite happy where I'm at. I'm at, period, close quote, new line, open quote, I'll go, comma, close quote. I'll go, comma, close quote, Danzin said, period, open quote. It will be nice to take a walk, period, close quote. After a long pause, thank you for the warning, comma, Usagi, period. We will keep it in mind, period. After a spout of bickering between the three, and that is where we are going to stop for now, period. We'll see if that ends up being the end of this part of the opener of Pilgrim 4, period. Likely, I will modify it some and add more background details, period. That is one thing that I usually add on my next pass, period. If you've watched all this, awesome, period. If you didn't, comma, I understand why, period. I'm still speaking in speech-to-text style, I'm sorry. You don't need to hear my punctuation, do you? I'll have to keep that in mind when I am doing this. Once if I press the plus sign on my keyboard, it turns off the speech-to-text. So once I turn it off, I'll have to remember to not talk like that. Something funny happened recently. I had to call a doctor and left a message, and I used the punctuation because I had just been doing speech to text. So it was like, here's my information, period. I'm available on this date, period. And then I realized that it sounded like I was being rude, like saying like, I'm coming now, period, that kind of thing. So yeah, I will try to keep that in mind when I am talking to you, the person watching this madness take place. How many words did we write? let's see, 1941. I'm happy with that. That's pretty good. I do like doing this in some way because it helps keep me on point, knowing that I will have to, or that I can't just play around on the internet. You know, it's hard not to play around on the internet. And it allows me to talk out a scene a little bit as well, explain why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I will do some more of it in the future, probably Cowboy Necromancer next. I wanted to record the beginning of Pilgrim 4 just for prosperity's sake. It's kind of cool. It is July 31st, 2021, so that's the date that I'm starting it. The date that I'm publishing it is November 5th, so I have to get on it, considering it needs to be over 140,000 words. Anyway, I'll see you later, and thanks for watching this. I'm going to stop the recording now. Have a great everything. I'm probably not going to post this one anywhere, so I don't have to say like and subscribe. In the future, I will say that, though. Bye.